Welcome, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us today for this exciting session, Drips, Bots, and Blogs, a non-traditional approach to learning reinforcement, presented by eLearning Learning and sponsored by In What Language. I'm Tara, the webinar coordinator for eLearning Learning, and I'm really excited to bring you this event with well-earned insight on strategies to give knowledge a greater chance of sticking and give people a better chance of direct skill application. I'm really looking forward to speaking with Shannon Tipton today and what I'm sure is going to be a valuable and illuminating conversation. Today, we're going to be hearing from Shannon Tipton. Shannon has been in the e-learning industry for over 25 years. Her main passion is working with people and organizations to make learning matter again. She's the author of Disruptive Learning and frequently speaks at conferences across North America and Europe. She's been named in the top 100 e-learning movers and shakers in 2018, and in 2019, the e-learning industry ranked her blog, Learning Rebels, in the top 100 e-learning blogs. So with that, without further ado, I'm going to step out of the way, Shannon, and I'm going to pass things over for you.
Let me know whether or not this is working for you. Hopefully it is. There we go. Golden Oreos. You know, the lemon Oreos are underrated. Those are my favorite ones. Dark chocolate, reality TV, Game of Thrones. I don't know if you're watching I think it's on Amazon, right? The sort of prequel. I haven't watched it yet, but my daughter tells me it's really, really good. Sleeping. Yes, right? When we were young, we totally, you know, we did not appreciate sleeping as much as we appreciate it now when we get older. Fudge covered Oreos, food, peanut butter. I love me some peanut butter. I put it in everything. All right. You know, the thing here is that the workplace has shifted significantly due to everything that we've experienced in recent times, right? The key is understanding that the need to adjust and pivot for success is in our hands. We have the ability to say, we realize that the working world is different right now. It's going to be different moving forward. And we cannot wait for the world to catch up again to where we might have been back in 2019. And we also cannot afford to go back to putting classes together that don't work. So what we're talking about today is a old slash new way of learning. Learning reinforcement has been around forever. Learning practitioners use learning reinforcement to ensure that there is a solid exchange of knowledge. Now, that's old and it continues to move through. How we use it now is what is changing in front of us. So if you're ready, let's do this. There we go. My computer is working just a little bit slowly, so we'll be patient with it. So here's the question for you. Do you ever feel overwhelmed? Do you feel like you're in that boat headed towards that waterfall, where it's like, oh my God, I see everything coming. And that's especially true when you think about the holidays, right? So we're all going to go on a mental break here in a couple of weeks, and we're going to get back and we're going to be so overwhelmed. Yes, both at work and at home. Thank you for that. It's coming from everywhere. New information hits us 24/7, 365. When we're sleeping, our phones are going off, alerts are going off, and all the time information, right? And sometimes, yes, sometimes it's exciting and sometimes it's anxiety inducing, right? And then what happens? What happens is this. You get a message from your LMS, ping, and now what? A new course pops up. And what we're doing when this happens is that we're creating disruption in the workflow, and we're creating absolutely more anxiety for the people who work for us. So how do we go about ensuring that we are not disrupting the workflow and that we are not creating more anxiety inducing courses? Well, our mission today is to build curiosity within the workflow, not burdens within the workflow. So our goal today is to talk about the what and the why and how we're going to plan content and some of the tools and what some of those tools do for us. Okay, so the what and why behind drip feeding content and spaced learning reinforcement. That's where we're going to start our conversation today. Okay, so let's go back to Menti here for a second. How familiar are you with the concept of drip feed learning? All right, most of you, no idea. I'm here to learn. I love that. Heard of it, never tried it. I'm familiar with the term to some extent. Good. So that it covers most of us, right? And when we think about drip feeding of learning, that's really a new term for, not really a new term, but a more recent term, let's just say, for learning reinforcement. Being able to drip pieces of knowledge to the people within our organizations after they've taken a class or maybe to prepare them for taking a class. So here's the official definition that I'm working with. It's scheduled delivery of chunked content to support spaced learning. Now, when we think about spaced learning gives us the concept of breaking knowledge out in a timed fashion. So think about this. When we think about when we think about how learning works, so your 30-second brain science course or class here is all of us absorb information in exactly the same way, regardless of generation, of of your sex, of your age. It doesn't matter. We all take in information exactly the same way into the front of our heads. What makes us different is whether or not we decide that that information is important enough to keep. So we bring information into the front of our brains, we make a decision on it about midpoint, and then we store it in the back. And again, this is where people are all a little different. How we store information, how we choose to file it away becomes different for each of us. The key is in spaced learning is to bring information out of storage and back into the front of the mind. So that way we can play with it a little bit. And every time we bring information to the front of the mind, we create stronger connections to knowledge. And so spaced learning helps us bring information that's been stored in the back up to the front. We play with it for a little bit, even if it's just for a minute or two, and then put it back. Every time that motion happens, it connects us stronger to the learning lessons. So spaced learning, when in dripped fashion, we have winner, winner, chicken dinner here, right? Because we're going to give people little drips of knowledge, and that encourages the spaced learning process. What this does, as I just said, is this becomes the strategy for keeping people engaged and curious. Because when you drip feed the learning into the learning journey, people then wonder what's next, right? What's next? I want to know what's going to come into my inbox next. I want to know what text message is going to bring me in a new little piece of knowledge that's exciting for me and relevant to what I do. And that really is the case, isn't it? We want to make sure that information is relevant. Right, and you're right. A lot of people conflate this with micro learning. Micro learning, and I have a whole other session on micro learning because that's where my bread and butter is as an organization. Micro learning is part and parcel, but that's not what this is. This is about spaced and chunked. Okay, and this comes to making the content so interesting that they cannot wait for the next lesson to be delivered in their email box, right? And that's what we want to do. And the key to doing that is creating your drips like a story, right? We want to build anticipation. We want to give them that sizzle reel, right? And so a lot of the myths that we hear, such as in the comments, let me know, you've heard that myth about people nowadays having the same attention span as a goldfish. That's a myth. That's a big old myth. This is a great example of where we all need to do our own research. The myth that the attention span is the equivalent of a goldfish, first off, is wrong, because a goldfish actually has a longer attention span, and it actually has the memory to hold for several days. So that in of itself is incorrect. But also that whole attention span grew legs. It was part of a Microsoft advertising campaign. And somebody took that Microsoft advertising campaign and turned it into research. And so we know that that's not true. We have attention span for the things that matter to us, for the things that are interesting to us. So it's not that TikTok is killing attention spans or Instagram is killing attention spans. It's that we are making a decision as to what is more interesting. And yes, sometimes it is shorter, but sometimes it is longer. So if you've ever binge watched a series on TV, then you know you've been there because you want to know what's next. You're interested in what's happening next. And that is where drip feedings become powerful, because they empower learning, they provide space, and it gives the brain breathing room. And this is critical, this last bit, because Bernsen by Deloitte put out a report that said 1% of the work week is all that people have to focus on their professional development. 1%. So what that means is people only have about 24 minutes worth of time to focus on their own professional learning and development. 24 minutes. Now you guys are all ahead of the curve because you're here with me for an hour. So yay. But typically 24 minutes. So now that's your competition. If your average worker has 24 minutes during the course of the week to focus on something, what does that mean for your training? You know, what this means for your training is that you have big competition. And your competition is TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. So you have to fight for that time. And this is where drip feed learning really becomes a benefit for you. So it makes you, for on like, what does it mean for me? It makes you and your department more agile because you can plan drips ahead of time. So that means if you plan them ahead of time, you can change them on the fly. Try to change an articulate course on the fly. Ain't gonna happen. So if you find something that's wrong or you want to redirect the conversation, you have the ability to do so. I'll show you how here in a moment. As I said, it keeps people more engaged. It allows you to blend your content for learning reinforcement. So in a drip, if you do your drips in an email campaign, you can include video, you can include audio clips, you can include clickable PDF forms, right? So you can then take your blended approach up a notch within this dripped campaign. It prevents brain fry. You know, we put people through so much cognitive overload when we put them through an 8-hour class totally online. We do this, and it's not fair to them. Because if you think about taking an 8-hour course online, that's 8 hours of looking at their screen, at smaller screens, especially if they're looking at their laptops, right? What does that do for the eyes? What does that do to the brain? Just think physically. And then mentally, they're trying to process information. So this, when we provide drip feed content, it allows the brain to have a little bit of a break and a little bit of breathing room. And that also helps connect knowledge, right? And then last part of this is that you can create pacing. So you can control the pace of information that's going out to people. So you can send knowledge or reinforcement lessons once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, once every other week, once a month. You know, you can control the pacing of how you want people to receive information. So all of these things put together makes it a real benefit for you as an L&D provider. All right, so now let's talk planned content. Now, hopefully some of you got the handout, and if you didn't, it's okay. But here's what we're going to work through briefly, is the first part of this handout. And the first part of this handout is, or there are 4 key parts to it. First off, it's understanding what question needs to be answered. I'm going to cover that. Secondly, what's the skill that we want to develop? Who is the hyper-focused audience? And what are the human-centered outcomes? What is the question that needs answering? People come knocking at our door and they say, uh, our salespeople, they need training on sales negotiation. So put me together a 2-hour training course on sales negotiation. All right. And so now most of us operate off of the premise of what problem needs to be solved, which is a very first and important step. What problem needs to be solved? But to further that, I would ask you, what really is the question that needs answering? So the problem at hand is perhaps that the salespeople don't know how to negotiate, or we want to take the pain out of negotiation, or maybe they just in general struggle with negotiation skills. So now what we need to do is back into this. And I saw that comment come through. It's working backwards. It is working backwards to a certain extent. So the question that needs answering here for this particular example might be what? So if someone comes up to you and they say, we need a sales negotiation class, what do you think the real question is that we should be asking? Why are they struggling? Exactly. Thank you. Ding, ding, ding. Yes. Why are they struggling? Why? Yes. It's not rocket science, right? Why are they struggling? And then what outcomes are you looking for, right? How can they negotiate better? Why aren't they negotiating better? Why aren't they using negotiation techniques? So when you think about this goes back to skills gap analysis. So go back into your ID history, go back into your ID education for some of you. Think about skills gap analysis. This means they are sitting at point A. This is where the people are. They're here. We need them to be here. So what's the gap? Why are they not doing this? So if we want them to be able to negotiate pricing and they are not, what's the gap? Why are they not? Right? So that's the question that needs answering. It's usually a why question. Why are they not doing XYZ? Why are they struggling? Why is the software not working for them? So then the next part of this is number 2, what is the skill that we want to target, right? So here clearly, and I've made this simple for you, but obviously there's going to be nuances within your organization. It's not always going to be so black and white, so cut and dry. But in this particular example, what is the skill that we need to enhance? And the easy part of this is negotiation skills. That's the skill. So if people say, why are people struggling? If your sales team comes to you and says, my people are struggling with sales negotiation skills. So it's not how do we build relationships? It's not how do we communicate. The skill itself, plain and simple, is negotiation, period. So this is what our learning reinforcement needs to focus on, negotiation. Now here's the question I have for you. Now is the time to look at our hyper-focused audience because relevance matters. So when we think about hyper-focused audiences, let me ask you in the comments, show me, what do we mean by a hyper-focused audience for this particular activity? Who do you think the audience should be? Salespeople who can benefit from the improvement? Great, let's narrow that down. Salespeople that need help specifically, new hires, and those with exhibited issues. I love that answer. That's a good answer. The others are good answers too, but now you're getting to it, right? So now it's about the funnel. We want to really target, oh, great, great. Look, people with low sales returns. Oh, I like that a lot. So now we're using data to support our learning reinforcement. Like it. We can also say that it might be people who are new to the sales department. new to the company, people who are only 6 months in, or people who are new to selling a certain product, people who are struggling with a certain product. So this hyper focused audience becomes really critical because if you send this kind of training out to everyone and it doesn't apply to everyone, what's the risk? Low interest, low engagement. Yeah, you've wasted your 24 minutes. Thank you for that. Yeah, they start blowing off the learning. Right. Yeah, they're not going to get it. Everyone tunes out. They begin to disregard you. Absolutely. Crying wolf. I love that. I think I might steal that. Yeah, it's not the best ROI, right? Yeah, and you're absolutely right. You're going to get low interest for future efforts. I love it. Yes. So this is why I say training created for everyone benefits no one. Okay? Put that in your notes. Training created for everyone benefits no one. So hyper focused here keeps people engaged, and it does keep that from the crying wolf syndrome there, because they're going to see all of this stuff pop up, and they're going to go, that doesn't apply to me. That doesn't apply to me. That doesn't apply to me. Oh, you're wasting my time, and then you become that training department, right? That training department that nobody likes. That training department that everybody avoids, right? And that's not where you want to be. And this leads us next to human-centered outcomes. So number 4 on your screen. What are the human-centered outcomes? How do the action steps relate to the person and the job? Unpopular opinion, hashtag unpopular opinion. Learning objectives are not for the learners. Learning objectives are for us. They help us write solid learning programs, right? They work almost as an outline for your design document, but they are not for the learners because there's no relevance to them. So what we need to do is create um, outcomes, not objectives, but outcomes that are completely relevant to them. So for example, we might say, by participating in this sales negotiation learning, you will learn tips and techniques so that you can close a sale faster. You are going to participate in this sales negotiation program, and you're going to learn tips and techniques so that, don't forget those two words become really important, so that you will close a sale faster, so that you'll get the customers through your pipeline faster, so that you'll be able to move on to the next sale faster or be able to cross sell or upsell, right? The so that statement allows people to see how they are immediately going to apply the learning that they're going to get. And that's what people want. People want relevance. So yeah, there's a certain what's in it for me, but there is a what am I supposed to do with this information? So the relevance part becomes very critical here. And that's why I call this human-centered outcomes, because we are creating outcomes that directly apply to people. All of this becomes important when we're creating our drip feeds. So when we're creating our drip feeds, we have to keep those 4 steps in mind. So here's what I'd like you to do. So go back to the Menti board for me. I want you to think about an objective that you're currently working with. So any program, it doesn't matter. Think about a learning objective that you're currently working with and try to turn it into a human-focused outcome. You will recognize a phishing attempt so that you do not compromise the system. Okay. You will practice pivot tables in Excel so that you can present data to others more effectively. Yes. You'll connect with others more deeply so that you develop in your team a mindset of collaboration and working together. I like it. Communicate with patients so that healing partnerships grow stronger. I love it. You guys are doing great. You'll understand the requirements of the CCPA so that you'll respond appropriately to customer responses. Very nice. You will create a learning resource repository so that employees have access to tools they need. Perfect. See, this is where we are actually seeing relevance here. The key to the "so that" statement is that you want people to feel it here. Okay? You want people to feel it in their hearts. Because here's the key to learning, folks. Regardless of whether or not it's drip feed, chunked, micro, virtual, social, it doesn't matter. Here's the key. The key is that we have to hit people in the hearts and in the minds. And if we don't grab them in the hearts first, we've lost. So this human focused outcome becomes that hook where we're going to get them in the heart. So that way they want to pay attention to what's coming their way because it's been super focused to them. It's relevant to them. And now you've hit them in the heart. So you've hit the brain and you've hit the heart. So now you're setting yourself up for success as you move forward. So this is something that you can practice. And here's my challenge to you is to go back now to your programs that you're creating and turn those objectives. And somewhere, somehow, we as an industry decided that learning objectives needed to be one long run-on sentence. It doesn't. What is it that you need them to do so that XYZ is accomplished for them? Simply. And that's the part that the learner sees. So when you're creating your workbooks or handouts or what have you, this is the objective that they see. You can keep the more formal stuff, the mega three-parter to yourself when you're creating your own, when you're creating the lessons in the program. But put the human focused outcomes in front of the people. Right, and I like that. It does. It focuses you and the subject matter experts to say, why are we doing this? Why is this even important? And I'm starting from the assumption that you all are creating programs that are relevant to people and your organization. So that's the jumping off point that I'm taking. But you absolutely you align this and you go back to it and say, well, if they're not able to do this, so what? Okay. So if you say, what's in front of me on my screen here, it says create a learning resource repository so that employees have access to the tools they need. Okay, so what if that doesn't happen? What if that doesn't happen? No harm, no foul? Will people miss it? So those are all good questions to ask yourself as you're creating content. And then what we want to do is what are the different resources that we can put to support the learning need that's going to support the human-centered outcome? And there are a variety of places that we can go with this. Like I said, podcasting, research articles, infographics, blogs, videos, books, etc. Those are all the different types of resources that we can embed in our drip feed. Okay, so your job then is to start collecting resources that you can use, but then also to plan engagement because you want to get people involved. And I'm going to show you how that works here in just a little bit. But when you think about, so really quick, I want to show you how this all works together. So what you have here is an example of email as nudges. And I gave you a sample path in your handout. And so you determine first off with your drips, what's the anchor? What is the learning tied to? So they took a virtual class, they took an e-learning course or a live class, or maybe self-directed. Maybe it was a self-directed process that they went through, but it has to be anchored in something. And so you can send out a series of emails as nudges. So maybe in week 1, you send them a review. Week 2, you send them a case study. Week 3, you give them something to do. You give them an activity. Maybe in week 4, you give them some feedback based on the activity that they gave you. And then maybe there's a capstone project. A good approach when people have little access to email, okay, let me show you that. So if they don't have access to email, what they can do is use blogs. So you use a blog to build conversation. And what this looks like is you build a blog page, and I'm going to show you here in just a second. So they build a blog page, quote unquote blog page, and in that blog you put a reinforcement assignment. And the good thing about a blog is that you can add comments, right? So you add comments, and then you can have them do, a case study, or they can mind map something, or you just give them an assignment to go off and do maybe a gallery walk. So there's a variety of ways that you can use this. And so here's an example. If you go to, and I was going to share my screen, but I realized that we're bucking up against time right now. But if you go to this website, it's called LearnCamp, you'll see an example of what this is. So learncamp.com. And it's old, and Mike Taylor ran it, and he gave me access to this. So he's opened it up. It's from 2015, but it's a really good example of how we can use blogs to build conversations and put in drip feed assignments. So, for example, what we see here, week 4, keeping up with a busy world. At the very top, you see resources, you see, the about page, etc. But underneath that, you would see what the assignment is for that week. And this is a great way to reach people if they don't have access to email. And you can build this on WordPress, which is free, right? Or maybe even your learning management system has a blog capability to it. All right. The next thing is chatbots. So they can receive messages on their phone. So if they have a phone that was purchased by your organization, you can send them text message learning or chatbots as reinforcement. And you have a couple of things to look at here. There is a sample chatbot course on that QR code there in front of you. It's about having tough conversations. And you can see how it's built as a story, and it's going to ask you questions about how you might have tough conversations with your team. And then at the bottom there, after you get this deck, if you want to take the full course, there's a little QR code there for the full course. But you can plan your chatbots as learning reinforcement. There's also another example here about how you can create a little mini website, which is something that my company does. We put together these little mini websites for resources. And so you can put your assignment into this little website along with resources and also with questions. You can also insert video. You can also insert audio. So it turns into a mobile app that you can point people to. So week number 1, there's new information. Week number 2, there's new information, right? So all sorts of different places to be able to find new dripped learning. The last part here is creating an augmented reality app. Now, we don't have time to play with this today, but I've given you the full instructions as to how to do this. And so Debbie Richards put this together for me. And this is really great if you think about drip feed for new hires. So let's say in a warehouse, you have a space for them to be able to scan a code. So they're new to the warehouse. Where are the exits? Where are the fire extinguishers? Where are the bathrooms? So you can put this all together, and it's not necessarily dripped being delivered to them. It's more of a pull. So they go to the QR code, scan it for whatever new information that might be available to them. And this would be really helpful when you think about new hires. We give them so much information when they start. This is a great way of breaking down information into chunks that help them manage their own cognitive overload when they start a new job. So the last part here is just keep in mind, be sure that your concept is clear, be sure the context is clear, be sure that you're tying it to those human-centered outcomes, and don't give them, so in your email feeds, in your blogs, or what have you, be sure that all of the activities align to the big question. So this activity has to help them negotiate better, right? So we don't want to give them activities just for the sake of activities. They need to actually do apply. They need to actually be relevant, and be sure that you are hyper-focused to your audience. I hope that this was fabulous for you. It was fun for me. And as always, please, here's my contact information. Reach out. If you have any questions, you want any follow up information, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. I'm open to answering any of your questions. And you can also schedule a free consultation with me and I can answer your questions there. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Shannon. How wonderful was that? I hope everyone here learned, I mean, half as much as I did, I'm sure. Thank you again to our sponsor, In What Language. Shannon, once again, a big special thank you to you for this phenomenal session.